In times like these, it can be challenging to perceive the positive side of humanity. Nonetheless, it's essential to adopt an optimistic outlook rather than a pessimistic one. The upcoming story is bound to evoke strong emotions, so you should keep a tissue handy. You're going to need it. While this young boy was hungry and on the hunt for his next meal, a girl made the compassionate decision to extend a helping hand. Little did she know what would unfold next. Over the past year, many of us have been pondering the same question. Where has all the goodness in humanity disappeared to? Despite the current challenges, there are individuals all around the world who continue to exhibit gratitude and kindness toward those in their midst. It's these very people who serve as a reminder that kindness still thrives. You are about to witness a genuine act of kindness in this story. We often tend to associate kindness with grand gestures, believing that it only truly matters when we perform substantial acts like buying someone a car or a house. While those acts of kindness are undoubtedly remarkable, they occur infrequently. The acts of kindness that hold lasting significance are often the small, seemingly insignificant ones, which leave an indelible mark on those who receive them. This story takes place in a small village, as it often does in such heartwarming tales. In this particular small village, there resided a financially disadvantaged boy named Cato. While most children his age were in school, Cato found himself working on the streets, doing whatever he could to earn money for food. With the income he generated, he also assisted his mother in paying their rent. It was a heavy burden for a young boy to bear, but Cato did what he had to do. Regrettably, Cato wasn't the only young boy compelled to work at such a tender age. In fact, more than 152 million children worldwide are forced into child labor, with a staggering 88 million of them being boys. While girls are often more inclined to take on household chores, boys frequently find themselves leaving school to join the labor force. And unfortunately, Cato fell within that statistic. Whether it involved forced labor or begging, the life was undeniably arduous for a child, a struggle that transcends age. One fateful day, as Cato toiled away, he grew overwhelmingly weary and hungry. Facing a hunger that seemed insurmountable, his gaze fixated on a nearby bakery where they tantalizingly displayed warm, fresh buns. Driven by a longing for sustenance, he ventured into the bakery, intending to reward himself for his hard day's work. Upon entering the bakery, a harsh reality struck him. He possessed just a single coin, far from sufficient to purchase the desired buns. Though his stomach clamored for food, he was left disheartened by this revelation. Reluctantly, Cato exited the bakery, returning to his labor. But the relentless hunger within him became unbearable. His stomach throbbed with emptiness, and he found himself with no other option but to seek assistance from someone else. It wasn't a prospect he relished, as he preferred to secure his sustenance through his own means. After rehearsing his words, he mustered the courage to knock on the nearest door he could find. At that moment, he decided to try his luck with the very first door he saw. Tentatively, he rapped on the door and waited with bated breath. However, when the door swung open, he realized he couldn't bring himself to do what he had initially intended. The door revealed a kind and gentle young girl, filled with nervousness and uncertainty. Cato deviated from his original request for food and instead asked for a glass of water. The request might have seemed peculiar to her. Why would someone knock on a stranger's door just to ask for a glass of water? For the girl, this request was indeed odd. And she couldn't help but wonder if there was more to the story. Sensing that there might be a hidden reason behind Cato's seemingly strange request, she concluded that Cato must be hungry. And instead of providing him with water, she kindly fetched a glass of milk and a bun. Cato, though embarrassed, accepted the milk and bun. Driven by his hunger, he was determined not to leave without compensating her for the kind gesture. He inquired about the cost of the milk and bun. Her response surprised Cato. She refused to accept any payment and shared. "You don't owe me anything. My mother taught me never to ask for money." Touched by her generosity, he expressed his heartfelt gratitude. When he departed from her home, he not only felt physically stronger but also found his faith in humanity rekindled. It was this small act of kindness that provided him with the motivation to pursue his dreams. Despite the challenges of working on the streets to support his mother's food and rent, Cato held ambitious aspirations. He envisioned completing his education and becoming a successful individual, driven by his desire to assist his mother and those in his community who required aid. Despite unfavorable circumstances, Cato was resolute in his determination to work tirelessly and achieve his dreams, regardless of the sacrifices involved. It would be years later when Cato had the opportunity to repay the act of kindness shown to him. A young girl from his village fell seriously ill, confounding the local doctors who had never encountered such a condition before. Unable to provide a diagnosis, they transferred her to a larger city, where renowned physicians attempted to determine the cause of her illness. Yet, none could unravel the mystery. The doctor who eventually discovered the root of her condition was none other than the young Dr. Cato. As he examined the patient's medical records, he recognized her name and her place of origin. This realization heightened his curiosity about the young girl. Driven by his growing excitement, Cato decided to visit the patient in person. As he made his way to her room, thoughts swirled through his mind, wondering if she was the same girl he had encountered all those years ago. His anticipation quickened his steps, making him walk faster and faster. When Dr. Cato's eyes met hers, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Right before him was the very girl who had once selflessly offered him milk and a bun when he needed it most. However, this time, she wasn't the young girl extending a helping hand. She was the one in desperate need of assistance to save her life. Filled with determination, he returned to the staff room, resolved to do everything in his power to save her life. It seemed like an unexpected turn for the worst that would truly test his generosity. In the middle of the night, Dr. Cato received a grave phone call. The young woman's condition had taken a severe downturn, and she was barely clinging to life. Through relentless efforts, the medical team managed to stabilize her, but she remained at high risk. Dr. Cato, anxious and deeply concerned, hurried to the hospital the following day. He couldn't bear the thought of losing this patient, as she had been the one who had extended her kindness when he needed it most. Upon his arrival, he found her connected to a multitude of machines, underscoring the severity of her illness. Her skin had turned pallid, and her heartbeat was so feeble that the monitoring equipment struggled to detect it. A week passed, but her condition showed no signs of improvement. Although Dr. Cato was reluctant to lose hope, he couldn't shake the growing sense that their efforts were in vain. It was a challenging moment, and he knew that a difficult decision had to be made. As a doctor, he recognized that there are times when difficult decisions must be taken, even when one would rather avoid them. Regrettably, he had no other option. She had reached the end stages of her life. And with a heavy heart, he chose to terminate her life support. Before doing so, he sat down beside her, holding her hand while speaking to her unconscious form. He conveyed his understanding of the immense value of her life and expressed his gratitude for her selflessness. Regardless of her identity, Dr. Cato's desire to help the woman was unwavering, just as the young girl who had once assisted him had done. With a heartfelt speech, he concluded his words to her and prepared to depart. However, as he was about to leave, he noticed the woman's finger move. It was the sign he had been eagerly awaiting all this time. After weeks of receiving no response, he finally glimpsed a ray of hope. It was evident that she didn't want to succumb to her illness. That small finger movement revealed her determination to fight for her life. She desired to live, and she needed his help. The instant he witnessed her finger move, he was inspired to do everything in his power to bring her back to life. This was his moment to fulfill the purpose for which he had been hired: to save lives. A week elapsed, and the head doctor recommended disconnecting her from the machines, believing that there was little hope of her awakening. The odds of her regaining consciousness seemed slim, and the hospital was incurring significant costs to keep her on life support. Cato implored for just a few more days to continue working with the patient in the hope of awakening her. He assured the head doctor that the patient would awaken within a couple of days. Although he had no certainty if that would indeed happen, his request was granted, and the head doctor agreed to give him one more opportunity. However, within a few hours, something miraculous occurred. The woman woke up after a long and arduous battle. She regained consciousness, and her illness had been cured. But before she could leave, she faced a substantial hospital bill. Without health insurance coverage, medical bills can be exorbitant. Before handing the bill to the patient, Dr. Cato requested to review it. With a smile on his face, he added something to the bill before presenting it to her. One of the nurses handed her the bill. But understandably, the young woman hesitated to discover the sum she owed the hospital. We all know that hospital bills can quickly accumulate into hundreds of thousands of dollars if you don't have insurance. Naturally, she was apprehensive about the impending total. If the bill turned out to be substantial, she could potentially spend the rest of her life trying to pay it off. The prospect of realizing that not dying would cost more than discontinuing life support was daunting. However, she knew she had to open the bill if she wished to return home. As she reluctantly unfolded the bill, she noticed something rather peculiar at the very end. The bill read, "Paid by a glass of milk and a bun. Sincerely, Dr. Cato." She was utterly astonished. It dawned on her that Dr. Cato was the very same boy to whom she had given a glass of milk and a bun all those years ago, when he was a hungry child. The young boy she had helped had come full circle to save her life. Upon realizing the true identity of Dr. Cato, she was overwhelmed with emotion, shedding tears of joy. They had only met once, and their encounter had been brief, making it remarkable that they both remembered the incident. Yet, that simple exchange between them had left a profound impact on Cato, propelling him to achieve his dreams of assisting others. More significantly, he had the opportunity to give back to the person who had changed his life. While it might appear insignificant to many, this act of kindness had saved her life. It's not every day that someone from your past comes back to rescue you, underscoring the profound impact even a small act of kindness can have on someone's life. In this case, The young woman was saved by Dr. Cato's selflessness. An experience she would never forget. It's evident that the saying "a little kindness goes a long way" rings true. Kindness is a truly beautiful thing. And it's something that we can never have too much of. After reading this inspiring story, it's a good moment to reflect on the ways you've lent a hand to others. The world can always benefit from more kindness. And life is too fleeting to be selfish. Perhaps, after reading this, you'll feel motivated to make a positive impact in your own community. Everyone can benefit from a little extra kindness.